AM 1460, the new WXBR Boston. You are listening to the Metro South Morning Show here on AM 1460, the new WXBR once again. Peter Czymbor and Mike Pava here with you this morning, PM in the AM. Joining me now via the telephone is a man who is the drummer for a legendary classic rock band from Foghat, Roger Earl. Roger, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Peter. Look, I've been up for a while. Actually, I haven't even gone to sleep yet. I got home late last night from being on the road for 4 weeks. Then I went out in the garden, started digging up potatoes and picking up the tomatoes. They're all falling down and rotting on the ground. I hate to waste food. So, actually, I'm a bit of a farmer.
After being on the road for a lengthy period of time, in your case 3 weeks, how difficult is it for you and your other band members to just decompress from life on the road and return to life at home? You're gardening this morning, so I guess you're doing it somewhat well.
Well, what are you kidding? I'm lucky. I play drums in a rock and roll band. I love my job. I get paid for that too. You know, some people have to go to work. I go to play. No, actually, I love my job. Decompressing, there's no such thing. You know, the only thing is you get a little tired. Like we had 3 days in a row. We played Santa Cruz in California. Then the next day we played Denver, Colorado, and then we played Des Moines, Iowa. So we managed to get about an hour's sleep each day. But with the right medication, you won't be lazy. Actually, I love my job. You know, I played drums in a great rock and roll band. So be careful what you wish for.
You've been doing it for about 40 years. I would hope that you enjoy your job. Otherwise, it's been a miserable life.
No, my life has been great. I am truly blessed, and I'm not exactly sure why, because I know sometimes I didn't deserve it.
We're chatting with Roger Earl of Foghat here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. Now, circa 2013, Foghat still playing shows, as you mentioned. You just got off the road, still recording as well. You guys recently released a new single, The World of Rock and Roll, and this is a rather interesting single because originally it was an instrumental that you guys had released on your latest album, which came out a few years ago, and you guys actually had a contest allowing fans to write the lyrics for this instrumental, and someone won, and there's actually someone who has a writing credit now on a Foghat song.
Yeah, his name is Phil Dessinger. He's actually a singer, but he also has a real job, earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, so he wouldn't go on the road. But actually, the competition was really interesting. The standard of people who wrote songs was incredibly high, and some of the singers were fantastic. Remember this one chick, I think she came from like Kansas City or somewhere. The song was okay, but her voice was like fantastic. It was a lot of fun actually, but it was very difficult to actually pick like a top 3 out of it. We had some help from a DJ friend of ours, Ken Dashow. He's in WAXQ in New York City. Oh dear, I'm giving them a plug. And then there was Jeb Wright, who has classic rock revisited.com. It's an online thing, and the band. So it was different. We got it down to about 3 songs, and then there was only about 3 or 4 votes in between the top 2. So, but it was a lot of fun. It started off as an instrumental with my brother Colin, who's a piano player with Mungo Jerry. Did it. We did it on our last album called Last Train Home, the blues album, and it was the only instrumental Foghat had ever done. And a good friend of ours, who was a DJ down in Mobile, Alabama, and he wrote a song. His name was Charlie Ocean. He wrote a song and put lyrics to it called Big American Blonde. It would never have got played on the radio. You know how you DJs are, a little risky, aren't you?
We can be from time to time.
Risque. But the idea was sort of cemented in our brains. Unfortunately, Charlie passed away in July of 2011, but the idea remained the same. So we put a contest together, and it was enjoyable. And as I said, Phil Dessinger won. It's called The World of Rock and Roll. It's sort of like it's a rock and roll tune. The lyrics are very positive. It's about being on the road and having a good time and having to put up with promoters who are stealing your money and won't give you a drink or a sandwich. That doesn't happen to us anymore, though.
Now you mentioned
a drink and a sandwich.
You mentioned that the guy who won this contest to write the lyrics for a Foghat song, that he couldn't go on the road with you guys because he does have a real job, which apparently is rather lucrative for him. Was it ever an offer for him to come on the road with you guys and perform?
Actually, if he wanted to, yeah, he could get up and sing the song or join in. Which actually, Charlie Tune, our singer, actually sang the lyrics. But Phil also has a really good voice. So yeah, if he was out there, if he was at a gig, that would be fine. Now, I would enjoy that. In fact, we often invite people to get up and like sit in with us. Most people can sort of, as long as they're good players. Boston, you live in Boston?
We are in Boston right now.
I have some really good friends up in Boston. I used to play in a band called the Jam Band back in the mid to late 80s with Charlie Farron and John Butcher and Fran Sheehan, player from Boston. I don't think he plays with them anymore. The Uptown Horns, a whole bunch of people. It was, that was a lot of fun. We've got some great players up there.
Well, hopefully they're listening this morning, and hopefully they heard their shout-out. Once again, we're chatting with Roger Earl, the drummer for the band Foghat, here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. Had that guy actually taken the opportunity to perform with you guys on the road, that would be a real-life, legitimate version of the Mark Wahlberg movie Rockstar, wouldn't it?
I wouldn't go that far, but no, I wouldn't go that far.
Okay, now
that was an interesting movie, wasn't it?
It was an interesting. I believe it was actually based on, loosely based on the true story of the guy who took over for Rob Halford and Judas Priest, I believe.
Yeah, I thought Rob was back with them.
He is back with them, but in between his departure, there was another guy.
No, there was another guy. Yeah, we've had a couple of guys in our band who tried, but Charlie Hune is our singer at the moment. He's been with us for 13 years, I think. So sadly, the new kid. Now, guitar player Brian Bassett has been with us 19 years, so he's not the new kid. Craig McGregor on bass has been with us since 1975. So he's my co-captain, actually. He had to leave a couple of times to bring his son up. But his son is now 21 and is learning to be a film editor. So Craig's back on the road. And me, I never left.
Once again, we're chatting with Roger Earl of Foghat here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. This new single you have out, The Word of Rock and Roll, which, as I mentioned, was originally an instrumental on your latest album. I read somewhere that it was the most downloaded track off of your most recent album, and I find that interesting because you guys are really catching up with the times, and not catching up with the times. You guys are with the times in releasing your music via the internet and whatnot. What has the internet done to the music business? Is it sort of the demise of the album where people are downloading single songs now via iTunes and whatnot, or do you think that there still is a place for album-oriented rock a la Foghat?
Well, the actual music, how people actually listen to music has changed dramatically over the last 20 years. I mean, even the Rolling Stones probably don't sell more than 100,000 albums anymore. And, they used to sell like gazillions. That part has changed. But, if you're a musician and a player and an artist, as I say, you still want to perform, you still want to write. And that's what we do, except we don't have to put out an album every year now. We have our own record company. And it usually takes us about 2 years before we finish an album and put all the tracks together. We've already started now. We've recorded 3 new songs. We have a studio down in Florida. It's in between Orlando and New Smyrna, in the middle of nowhere. We've got like 10 acres, and the only things we annoy are the birds and the fish and the deer. And a couple of neighbors don't mind. They keep an eye on the place when we're not there. And it's fun. January, February, March, April. I live in New York on Long Island, and it gets a little chilly up here. But you know about that up in Boston,
we know a little about that. We're not too far off in terms of geography for weather.
So we go south in the winter, and we rehearse, we write, record. Generally kick back, relearn maybe 4 or 5 or 6 songs that we haven't played in a number of years to put in the set to keep it fresh. There's probably 6 or 7 songs we'll always have to play. You know, people say, well, why didn't you play Stone Blue? And I said, we did. I said, oh, I was sleeping. No. You know, I mean, Slow Ride, Fall for the City, I Just Want to Make Love to You, Stone Blue, Driving Wheel. We have to play those songs, which is fine. I mean, Foghat never recorded stuff that we didn't want to play. We always maintained artistic control over what we were recording, so you live and fall by that.
And you mentioned that you always had artistic control over your recordings, but now you guys have business control over what you do as well, as your music is released on your own record label. Do you enjoy that experience?
Actually, it's our manager who's the brains behind that. I'm somewhat of a Luddite when it comes to doing things with the internet and keyboards and stuff. I see how hard it is for people. They sit at computers like all day long, and I get the only thing I can really sit at is the drum kit and a piano occasionally. But I can use a computer, but it's like it just takes so many hours out of the day sitting there and staring at a screen. It's not my idea of a good time. Though the truth is, I can do it. I do it when I need to watch a soccer game.
But you're Americanized enough that you call it soccer instead of football.
Well, that's because nobody would understand. But I think you guys are sort of getting better at it with the football, real football. In fact, the American men's team has some incredible soccer players, world class. In fact, a bunch of them all play over in the European leagues. And of course, the American women's soccer team, I think, has won the world championship. Was it 2 or 3 times? At last, they've actually got a professional league for women. So that was a good move, I think, on your part. Not you necessarily, but
not
America
me personally.
In general.
Yes.
Not you personally, no.
The American women's soccer team more accomplished than the men's by far at this point.
Well, they've had greater success as far as like winning cups and silverware and stuff like that. And once again, I mean, they're incredible players. And it took people a long time to sort of realize that they deserve to have their own league, which they've done now, and it's starting to get real popular. You know, one of the things I love about living in America is the fact that when we actually sort of get their teeth into something, they do it right. Like I said, it's not going to be long before the men's soccer team wins the World Cup. I mean, they're that good. It's going to happen within the next, 2, 3, 5, 10 years. It will happen. I mean, they beat Italy, who were world champions. So it's just sometimes you have to, the day goes for you, and sometimes the day goes against you. Oh, we're not talking about music anymore.
We're talking about soccer all of a sudden. I don't know how we got on soccer, but we do have some soccer buffs within our listening demographic, so you feel free to opine on the real football, as you say it, however you'd like. Once again, we're chatting with Roger Earl of Foghat here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. Roger, I wanted to ask you this question because I don't know if you've ever really opined on this subject. A number of years ago, Jim Carrey won an award at the MTV Movie Awards, and during his acceptance speech, he did it in a character that was a large Foghat fan, and he actually said, quote, "I have a bone to pick with the programming department at MTV. Would it kill you every once in a while to play a little Foghat?" And the crowd went crazy. What was your thoughts on that, and have you spoken to Jim Carrey or anything in relation to that?
I haven't spoken to Jim Carrey about it, but I did, in fact, see it live. And thank you, Jim, if you're listening. He's an absolutely brilliant actor, and I mean, his films are hilarious. And I mean, it's great that he's a Foghat fan. So is Jack Nicholson. He wears a Foghat. Rumor has it that Bill Clinton was also a Foghat fan. Yeah, well, there's a bunch of them out there. They just have to come out of the closet.
So did you see a surge in Foghat amongst younger people when Jim Carrey made that acceptance speech at MTV Awards?
Well, actually, there's been a huge surge. Most of the people I'm 67, like my age, they don't go out anymore. They're old. They sort of sit in chairs and watch TV. But we get a lot of younger folks, especially 16 to maybe 25, 30-year-olds coming to our shows. So that is really, what's the word? I don't know. Refreshing, because I guess it means that the music that you've written over the years actually means something. I mean, like we just played, where did we play? We played in Des Moines, and there was like nearly 10,000 people there. We headlined that. We just played in Santa Cruz, California. We did 2 shows there, and they were both sold out. It was about 5,000 people per show. It was like, so the band's doing great. Thank goodness, because it's too late for me to change horses in the middle of this stream. It feels good that people really like the music and come out to see us. And the band, we've been practicing for about 50 years, so we know how to play.
We're chatting with Roger Earl of Foghat here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. You mentioned some recent places where you've performed recently. When are you guys touring again, and when will we be coming back to the Boston and New England area?
I don't know if we did some shows up in New York State. Boston, let me have a look. Where are you? Massachusetts, right?
We are in Massachusetts, yes. Yeah, are you taking a look at the itinerary right now as we speak?
Yeah, anybody can go to foghat.net, and anything Foghat comes up there. No, don't go to .com, because that's the historical site. Sorry, but foghat.net, and you can find out all things about Foghat. We also have a wine that we're making out in the mid-coast of California. In fact, I was just out there. We just bottled a 2012 Cabernet Sauvignon. We have...
you guys actually have your own distribution of Foghat wine, is what you're saying?
Yeah. Actually, I go out. Myself and my wife go out there, and we pick the grapes and punch them down and do all that. We have a winemaker, a guy called Steve Rasmussen, who's a terrific winemaker, a good friend. He worked with Tally Vineyards. He worked with Robert Mondavi, so he has lots of good creds. And not making any money at it, but hey, I have a wine cellar now.
It's a hobby. I mean, it's a hobby. You're 67 years old. You have a good career as a rock and roll musician. You might as well have a hobby making wine, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. It actually just started to sort of do really well. My hobby is fishing. I'm not that good a fisherman, so I couldn't do that professionally. Making wine, I'm getting real good at it. The wine itself is absolutely delicious. Good friend of mine, Fran Sheehan, who lives up in Boston, who is a wine connoisseur. I think he just likes to drink the stuff. But he's tasted it, and he likes it too. So, how are you, Fran? And I've got to say hello to Charlie Fallon. Hello, Charlie. And John Butcher. Hello, John. Haven't seen you in a while. You sounded good the other day. We were up in, where were we? Played up in New Hampshire, and John was up there. I only got to see him performing for a few minutes because I was leaving town at the time. But I didn't get a chance to say hello to him. So, hello, John. Great guys, great players too.
Not far from Boston at all, New Hampshire. Well, Roger, I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning on the program. Before I let you go, we are going to play out to the song The Word of Rock and Roll, which is Foghat's new single, as we mentioned earlier in the interview. Lyrics written by a fan who won a contest to write the lyrics to an instrumental Foghat song. What were some of the worst lyrics that anyone turned in that contest to try to get to be the lyrics to this new Foghat single? There had to be something abysmally bad within the many entries you got.
There was, I'd rather stay on the more positive side of these things. But no, actually, generally, the standard of writing lyrics was very. I was impressed. They were really good. It was quite difficult to sort of pick, and I'm sure, often with a lyric, it's really a lot of it has to do with the performance. You can look at some words and go, "Oh, that's nice," or you can listen to it sung by somebody who's mediocre as a vocalist. But I mean, a lot of it has to do with the actual performance, I think. Of course, the words are important, but I think it's how a song is performed. A great singer can turn, minimal lyrics into something special. Look at any of the great singers that have been out there. I'm not saying that they sing minimalist words, but it really has to do, I think, with the performance. But as I said before, the person who wrote these lyrics, I thought, roll and being on the road. And 495, which was the original name of the tune, 495 Boogie. 495 is like the Long Island Expressway. It's more like a parking lot most of the time. But that's where I live, actually, Long Island.
Well, Roger, we hope you're enjoying life on Long Island. We hope that we see you on the road again soon here in the Boston area. We will play out to the word of rock and roll. Any final words for our listeners before I let you go? Yeah,
Boston, great town. I have some very good friends up there. I've spent many days and nights up there and had a good town. Wonderful town. Love the people up there, and hopefully we'll see you one of these days.
We hope to see you as well. That's Roger Earl of Foghat joining us here on AM 1460, the new WXBR. More information at foghat.net. You're listening to the Metro South Morning Show. Peter Czymbor and Mike Pava here with you. We'll step aside for a quick break. When we return, Mike Pava joins us with a local news update.